So welcome back, everybody. I'm sorry. Everybody means the few of you who made it after the most important panel, which was on the terrace, which was actually called lunch, right? So I'm happy that at least you could make it, and that my fellow panelists and submarine experts could make it here. And I'm very happy to move on the second part of the day. We still have two panels to go. One which is to see if we can build resilient corridors. And the other one will be more about satellite, which is also not to forget, right? So thank you for coming. Really appreciate it. And I'll give my fellow panelists a quick minute to introduce themselves, and then we immediately go into. Admiral, if I may start with you, please, sir.
Good afternoon. Thanks for the invitation. My name is Antonio Marques. I'm recently retired Rear Admiral from the Portuguese Navy. But basically, I think I'm here because during the last 9 years of my life, I was General Director of the organization that deals with information security, namely classified information security, as well as National Cybersecurity Center. The National Cybersecurity Center was within the structure I led for the last almost 9 years. So, and I've been in the Navy since 1976. Probably some of you were not even born, but
I was 11 years old. I was 11.
That's life. What do I do? Now I'm curious, so I want to learn, and I look for always learning new things.
Thank you so much, Admiral. And yeah, I mean, you know what it means to keep things secret, right? We don't. So you're in good hands here. Thank you so much, and a pleasure and an honor to have you here. Thank you so much. Luis, the grand-père of the industry.
Oh, la, 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 la. Admiral, did you know that I served at Iberland in 1975-76? Here we go. British Navy. Hi, gents, ladies. Louis Carver, Afrix Telecom. We are here to develop Africa, and we are developing Africa. And Africa is our bread and butter. It's our basket. It's our back turf, home turf.
What was the name of the continent again?
Isn't it Africa?
Africa.
I think so.
Africa. All right. Then we go on the... No, it's over to you, Hristo.
Yes, hello everyone. Thanks for the invitation. I'm Hristo Lazarov. I'm Business Development Director for ZEI Europe, covering Middle East, Balkans, South Europe, East Europe, and covering the edge of the European hotspot of connectivity, building out network, building resilience and partnerships. And I'm happy to share the floor with this dignified gentleman and with the audience. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Nuno?
Hello, everyone. My name is Nuno. I work for Nokia. I am a lead Subsea engineer running the team that does the EMEA deployments for Subsea. I will try not to bother yourself with technical details, but if you have any questions during my presentation, please, or during the session here, please feel free to ask. I will try to answer. And thanks for having me.
More than welcome. Damien.
Hello, everybody. So let's try after lunch to have this panel. And so my name is Damien Bertrand, Damien Bertrand, and 20 plus years of telecommunication experience. Let's say we will say only 20 plus. And always in Europe, Middle East, and Africa. This is the region. And half of it, let's say, in the subsea sector. So the group we have, let's say, have three main activities. Afrix Telecom for connectivity services between Europe and Africa mainly. Then we have Barcelona cable landing station. So cable landing stations we are building and operating for multi-cable. And our flagship project is Medusa. That we'll talk about it if you want.
Okay, thank you, and welcome as well. Actually, he's only 20 plus years. He's a freshman, huh?
Youngster.
Youngster. It's only 2 decades.
Only.
We've been there long time ago, right? Anyway, guys, let's move in there immediately. Talking about building the resilient digital corridors and by integrating the subsea, the terrestrial, the data center ecosystem, satellite. Let's not forget this. Damien, if I may start with you. Talking about global digital corridors, give us your thoughts about the growing importance of integrated connectivity corridors like Europe, Africa, Middle East, Americas. Well, what's your helicopter view? What do you see?
Yes, indeed. Medusa as an example, maybe we can illustrate that because
No sales pitch, eh?
no, but
Okay.
for resilience, as you said, I mean, if you see in the Mediterranean area, the first driver has been really the connectivity between North Africa and South Europe. So for that, it allows the operators from that region to land in South Europe in several countries. So this is a big change at fiber level. Before it was more like CME4 or consortium, international consortium, sharing a few fiber pairs between 10, 15, 20 operators. So you are sharing capacity. Now each operator can have its own full fiber pair. So this is a big change. Then for the corridor, through Egypt or through other routes that can be done. And one example that we are building currently is we will land in Port Said in Egypt. We are currently what we call the Sinai Ring building until Taba in Egypt, and then 15 kilometers to Aqaba in Jordan. So we have such route. And in a few months ago, we signed with Tartus in Syria, which means that we'll be able to have like a ring from Aqaba to Damascus to Tartus, and then back at sea in front of Egypt, if I can say that we will really close such a ring. So in the future, if there's cable break or, I don't know, in Syria, we'll be able to go.
Well, more reality, it's about time, I would say, if I may say so, because we were talking about this, especially the terrestrial part, since a long time, correct?
June 24. We signed June 24 for the Egyptian side, I'm talking, and it will be ready for service at the end of this year.
No, I'm not talking about your cable,
Yeah.
but in general, through that, because we had some outages in the Red Sea, right? So that's why we need the terrestrial part absolutely as well. Risto?
Yeah, I would like to continue the thread of talk by Damien and take a little bit of further zoom out. We are in Europe right now on the west ridge, on the west bank of Europe, and it's important to see Europe as the mission critical bridge between the massive compute needs and AI campuses in the Americas and the extremely high growth potential markets in Africa and Middle East. So the crossing point is Europe, and we need to focus efforts, be it, we'll follow up in the discussion, but be it in open technology, be it in resilient routes, be it in uptime, to ensure the key spot of Europe in this connectivity corridor between the Americas and into the Middle East. And the Subsea is the fastest growing. It's handling a huge portion of the traffic. It's estimated that this year, the global subsea cable industry will reach nearly $33 billion. So market share.
Only. Only.
Today.
Today. Admiral, if I may, what are your thoughts on let's say, the integrated corridors between the continents? What's your view?
Well, I can share what are my concerns, and they were already before today. And my concerns are within the architecture of the cables themselves, because even if they are a ring cable, which augments resilience as such, they generally connect more than two states that sometimes are under different jurisdictions. So how are we going to go about dealing with that fact? I don't know if I'm conveying my concern to you clearly, which are, imagine the cables that cross the Atlantic, be it to Africa, be it to South America, be it to North America. We are under the jurisdiction of the EU laws, the EU regulations, whilst the other continents are under different regulations. And there must be some kind of Montego Bay type of thing for cables, because we may fall into situations where a certain tip of the cable claims for something that the other tip doesn't care, which may hamper not the physical or the electronic resilience of the cable, but the system as a whole. And this is one of my main concerns that I've already conveyed several times in situations like this, but so far no answer has been given to me back. I mean, I've never heard something that
would ease the pain.
Would ease the pain. Now my pain is a little bit lighter, because I no longer have formal responsibilities on security, on information security as a whole. But as a citizen, I still am. This is my main concern. Which, with this comes others. Involved, UK and Portugal. I raised the possibility of creating regularly exercises, beginning in tabletop exercises and other types of exercises, where these two countries that are the beginning and the end of some of major cables, even connecting the two countries, including the Republic of Ireland, could do exercises at multinational level. Everybody clapped their hands, everybody agreed, but nothing occurred. So you see, this is one of the things that I would like to throw to the panel and eventually to the audience.
Admiral, the transnational nature of these systems and the transnational presence of data centers, of operators, I think provides a layer above the national and country-specific problems that might affect such a venture. And I think the Porto Declaration from earlier this year about the combined and mutual efforts on supporting subsea systems is a step in the right direction. Not regulation, but a shared path, shared vision. And I think the world has too much vested value and shared interest in supporting these systems. So maybe Porto, which is 600 kilometers away, was a good step in this direction.
But it's, yeah, please, but it's still not the answer you're looking for.
No, you see, I tried. If what I've said gave you the impression that I was centering my concerns in Portugal, I did it wrong. My concerns are not centered in Portugal. Of course, Portugal is a little tiny thing, 10 million inhabitants in the western tip of Europe. My concern is a broader concern, because I think as exists for other areas where there is authorities above nations, above blocks that look at law at sea, law on space, and so on, and cyberspace as well. We should add something at that layer for submarine cables. And I know a few law researchers that have written papers and published papers in international magazines on that, and I think that will get traction. I'm not a lawyer. I'm a naval electronics engineer, retired. But very often I talk with at least two guys of that area, and they are generally concerned with that fact. But I agree with you. With cooperation, we may drive authorities to do such a thing, which means that the market must also play a very important role in this ecosystem. The market, the companies that are putting their money there.
What I think is, yes.
Yes, exactly. I wanted to follow on that. Just we are working with the 5 North African countries from Morocco to Egypt, plus 7 South European countries. So in one system. So we have every day such questions, let's say, and here we clearly need to differentiate the European side from the North African one. There we are completely subject to local regulation, of course, and in Morocco, it's Moroccan. In Tunisia, everyone has its own regulation. We have to respect that. We are not even an operator there. So it's a local party with the due license that is managing the branch and owning the branch and managing the branch. Then, if we go on the trunk plus European side, here we are under, let's say, EU regulation, but even here, it's more recommendation. You go to Marseille, and the way the Préfecture Maritime is managing it is different from Barcelona, which is different from Genova. So it's a very sorry. Indeed. So they are looking at it and organizing it the way they prefer. So we have a few Europes inside Europe. So it's first we could try to. We are trying to make it more homogeneous, but it's not easy.
That's not only in submarine cables that we have different Europes in Europe. It's not only there, but maybe the UN can play a role there, because I think that is the only global body which could give the guidelines.
Yeah, I fully agree with you, Eric.
That's the only way.
Yeah.
I'll put it on the agenda next time.
Yeah,
I'm there.
sure. Yeah,
Huh?
but you see, Damien, based on your example, I would anticipate the need for a kind of a governance body conveying all the states that you mentioned, the South European ones and the North African ones, because by the end of the day, although they have branches from the core cable, if there's a cut, there's a damage on the resilience of the cable that connects all the states, well, they will suffer unless the cable is a ring cable, which the electron or the photon can go the other way around. But don't you think it would be nice to, not nice, it's not a question of being nice or not nice. It would be useful for a body to be created where these entities could convene, or should they go and convene at the ITU/United Nations level? ITU probably.
Yeah, I don't know the final answer, but on Friday I will be in Brussels, and this is the Council of Europe meeting, let's say, where it is about Mediterranean connecting subsea cables, and this is one of the main points we are going to talk about.
Okay, so there is movement, to answer your question, but it's still not the answer you're looking for, right? And we should look for. Now, Luis, what do you think? What's the role of submarine cables, terrestrial fiber routes, and data centers in creating a seamless global infrastructure? We discussed already one point.
Well, I think we have something like 120 POPs in Africa. Only. And this is 10 years of work, by the way. So all these POPs are obviously meshed and talk to each other. So most of the traffic within Africa remains in Africa. Unless, of course, they have to go outside. And then we need, obviously, the infrastructure, which is subsea infrastructure, to take the traffic out of Africa when it needs to go out of Africa, but relatively goes in because most of the business comes worldwide into the continent.
Right.
Lisbon, we've talked about Portugal over the past couple of days. We cannot work without Lisbon because most of our traffic, they enter through the various data centers within Lisbon. Some couple of 100 gigs of traffic that we bring out of Africa into Lisbon. And also what we do then, we use both sides of the continent, and obviously then we need to use all this infrastructure and the availability of subsea capacity to bring in all this business in and out of Africa. We know obviously of various failures within various regions of the continent, but the fact that the network is resilient, okay, we take a few hits on milliseconds of round-trip delays and latency. But at the end of the day, the network has been, how should I say, configured to take some of those hits. When we cannot go east, we go west. When we cannot go west, we actually even go further west because we have capacity going across Latin America to Fortaleza, up to Ashburn in Virginia, and back across to Europe again. So we do take a bit of latency, but in the end of the day, the network has been running 100% since past 10 years.
Okay.
We go across also east to west of Africa. We have a corridor between Djibouti across the Chad down into Cameroon. So eventually, even then, we've looked at these routes that we need to secure and keep the network running 100%, 24 hours a day, whatever. Looking beyond, we are now, thanks to Medusa, actively now landing our own network, not the Medusa network, but the Afrix network, running on top of the Medusa network into places like Egypt, Libya, Tunisia, Algeria, and Morocco. These were, I would say, non-accessible countries before, but now using and leveraging Medusa network, we're actually now going into these countries. So as I mentioned, we go east to west, but then one day I think we will look north to south from the various Mediterranean right down to Southern Africa. On top of that, 12 operating licenses. We have recently acquired one operator in Lagos, and in Accra in Ghana, so which also now gives us access into those countries, and obviously the landing stations, which is very, very important for us.
Listening to this and strengthening the network resilience and redundancy, and the complete multi-route architecture and design, which is needed, combining the subsea and the terrestrial. How can you support these guys? And not too technical, please.
Well,
how can Nokia support the guys with it? Of course, with the right services and products, whatever. But how can you help them in their strategy actually to define where to put their networks?
Okay, as you see, it's very demanding to have all these situations, and even talking about protection, multiple routes. We're talking about milliseconds decision. So you cannot have someone taking decisions on a millisecond base to reroute traffic or to speed up capacity. So we need to come up with some products that can do this clever, and the use of AI, automatic decisions, is really important. The other thing that you mentioned here as well, and in the morning I was able to hear, is that you need a network which is has moved from a point-to-point network between continents to a mesh type of network, even a subsea level. And with these, you also need to be able to make use of the existing terrestrial infrastructure. And as it was mentioned on the session before this one of the aspects that we try to leverage here is the use of that same fiber, but extend the capacity, for example, to explore extended C band and L band, or even extended L band with innovations. And that will actually be able to not only reroute the subsea traffic, but also to increase the capacity that can be used for when the traffic actually gets hit, you reroute it for a different band, but you still have that capacity in place for protection, for example.
Okay. And mesh, you don't mean mass, right? Or spaghetti.
Or spider web.
Spider web. Here we go. No. But the importance is exactly in those words, because otherwise we do get a mess, and we get into a mess, right?
Eric,
Please.
may I? Do you allow me to ask a question to
I do.
Nuno? I've heard rerouting automatic with AI, and that raises a concern. My helmet of cybersecurity, which my concern is that. Although I understand that, what you've said, my concern is that no people in the loop exists, and that AI layer can be tampered with some agent foreign made, such that the traffic is conveyed not only to the place it should go, but also to the place the author of the agent wants that traffic to go to. You understand what I mean?
Yes,
And with this current geostrategic environment we live in, this is not rocket science, and this is not the result of the fact that I'm seeing too much Netflix spy series. You see what I mean?
Yeah, it's you need to have the framework for it to prevent or to put security in place. But what I can tell in terms of today, you live with the static rules, or you base your decision-making rules on threshold. But if you would like to elevate your network to self-healing, to have that regeneration process, you would need to create something on top of the existing physical rules. And I think AI could help us on that. Security-wise, that framework needs to be there. And the other use case that I heard in the morning was Linux basically removing the AI code from the Linux base. So here is, so you may have the help of AI, but then you will need to have the boundary for that.
And it's exactly in that last part, because you need to control it. There you go. Damien.
No, just I wanted to maybe if Nuno can elaborate also on the fact that as a European trusted vendor, of course, Nokia is working, for example, with Medusa, but we're not the only one. So that, but well beforehand, in the way that we are planning and we are developing together, let's say, all the Medusa routes and so on. If you can elaborate a little bit more on that, in the way that it's more like Team Europe, if I can say, with European vendor, European operator, and so on.
Well, because we are following the European rules and certain standards, we all approved standards. We are the help here, and the security is almost built into the policies and the software that we developed. And we as a company, you can imagine, with different products, we have multiple software in-house and developed in-house, which is validated.
Exactly, and just one, and in that sense, together, I was last week in Morocco, and together with some Nokia delegation.
Lucky guy, yeah.
But what I mean that for your North African neighbors, we together, Nokia and Medusa, we were able to offer a trusted solution, not only in Europe, but then we paved the way to, and in Morocco even, to have trusted vendors and trusted solution European way, if I can say.
Okay, Lisa?
Yes, this is the systemic approach, and the self-healing systems are a major concept. In the same time, we all run on cables, and as the Admiral mentioned, in the geostrategic environment we live in, and then 80% of the cable cuts on subsea networks are due to human activity. So that's why we have multiple routes in place. So connecting the critical bridge between London and Europe, let's say between UK and Europe. Currently, we are utilizing 6 different routes. Last one launched last year, end of last year. So spreading the load between 6 different routes can allow for this network resilience, and also I think this refers into the Medusa system across the Mediterranean. Having multiple landing points can also alleviate the pressure because if everything lands in Marseille or Barcelona, there is a very critical spot or congestion spot. So alleviating this into Genoa, into Rome, into Valencia, into Barcelona spreads the load and can provide a truly mesh network where all the operators, be it wet, be it dry, be it the meeting spot of the data centers, unite efforts, and we have a really vibrant live ecosystem of with open access.
Okay. All right. Moving on. What are the strategic opportunities to strengthen the region's global hub role in the global digital infrastructure map? What's needed? Who of the gentlemen?
Well, within West Africa, essentially now, obviously there's a big growth of data centers. In Nigeria, I believe there are 4 or 5 data centers already in place, let alone in South Africa. But that helps as well. Then the interconnections, which is obviously alleviates all sorts of issues. But this is still it's still happening and it's still growing. And also we must not overlook the various interconnection exchange points. These are also helping the interconnections and peering perspective of internet, and this is also then being built and all across the old continent of Africa. The main hubs today are in Lagos, they're in Kenya, Nairobi, and also down in South Africa, but there are now data centers being built all over around the continent. So again, as I said, this should alleviate the issues of interconnections and so on and so on.
Okay. Damien?
Yes, exactly. I would say two regions, the West Africa and Central Africa area are the following ones that really need such new and subsea and terrestrial solutions. And the other ones, I would say, is the east of the Mediterranean Sea. But not only for the sake of its region, but with Gulf region. The IA also factories in Saudi and so on need on one side to come to Europe. So we need to connect it. And here it will be, all the routes will be needed through Egypt, through Israel, through Syria, through Turkey. It's really needed, and this is the next big opportunity we see and we're working on.
Okay. Listo?
Yeah, I think a critical point is to have a combination of factors. So climate-wise, regulation-wise, so I think and infrastructure-wise. So I think this is why we are focusing so much on Iberian growth and overbuild of infrastructure of data centers, because there is low-cost renewable energy access in Portugal and Spain, as well as north of England is another similar example with wind power and wave power. In the same time, there is access to multiple landing stations, which connects geographies. And this is why the focal point of so many operators and data centers and the entire ecosystem is into these areas. On the ridge of the terrestrial, linking wet to DC to dry, because this is like a triad. If you take one of these, nothing works.
If I may,
please.
From my point of view, I think it would be healthy for the community to have a governance body that looks not only to into the subsea cables as such, but also from an end-to-end point of view, including the data centers that are in the extremities of these segments of connection, but also the terrestrial path, because they also and they should do it from a risk point of view. Again, I'm probably being biased by my recent past, but I learned to approach things from a risk-oriented. I learned to approach things from a risk point of view, and we generally come up with relatively feasible and executable answers. And I don't think we have that, not only at the Iberian level, but let alone at the European level, not EU level, European level, including, of course, UK, which is a very important hub and in this whole thing. And I think we should do that. I don't know how. At global level, we saw already that ITU is probably a good approach, but I think we should aim high, but start thinking at the regional level. I don't know if in the African continent there's also already a body that, of course, from your looks, I got already the answer. But I think if some part of the world starts doing that, we may get traction on the other. Look, internet as ICANN, right? The ICANN is a body that kind of governs internet. Why shouldn't we do the same things for a part of the all world infrastructure where internet is based on? You understand what I mean? Otherwise, I mean, it's going to be ad hoc. And although the mesh networks,
one aspect is the regulation and the governing body, but internet is a free flow system and free flow organism, and similar to the market logic, which is also a self-regulating system in ideal circumstances. That's one of the approaches. I think a market-led and practical approach is the open access and sharing of network and assets. There was interesting workshop by Mohammed from Interfiber yesterday, but he left, probably has a meeting. Anyway, so similar to how mobile operators at one side of the board, they're competitors. On the other side of the board, they share resources. I think this is happening more and more into the operator and into the wholesale space. So one thing is on the infrastructure layer, when building new data center, and they're much bigger experts than me in this room, there are at least 4 entrances, so that there is never a single point of failure. For example, in Northumberland, one of our, being at ZEO, we have a global footprint, and in Europe, we are more of a terrestrial operator. In the UK, we have also DC. We also have subsea systems between Ireland and UK, the Emerald Bridge. So I can have some visibility on that, how it helps. So once a data center is built, if there is open access, multiple systems enter, and this resolves the issue of resilience and SPOF in itself.
So from your words, I understand that you don't think it's needed for any governance structure to handle that.
No, I think it's a bottom down and bottom up and top to bottom approach. I think these two things in combination can ensure full resilience. You have a governing body and you have a self-regulating, like BGP. It always finds the lowest latency.
Okay, could be a step. No. What is the role of the open cable system, spectrum sharing, and next generation optical technologies? Do they support the resilience of the digital corridors?
Yeah, well, some of you as well started on a time where people would sell the cable, would sell the landing stations perhaps already built, and would sell all the telecoms equipment. And we moved, and I started working for Infinera before becoming Nokia. And Infinera was one of the pioneers moving into an open cable system, even today with the new pluggables. And I think that actually enlarged the amount of options that you can have on the system. Even when you're doing spectrum sharing on the cable, you reduce the amount of failures, because if you have one equipment that fails, that will not potentially affect the whole cable. So you're not going to have a total blackout. You may just lose a portion of spectrum, which with the technology that you have today, you have automatically probably ASC loading on the cable, and you will not lose the remaining traffic capacity. And that by itself improves resilience of the cable and resilience of your system and of your network. I'm not talking about the collocation of equipment on site, but that's another.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
Well, from a network availability, I have no qualms that we will carry on working and working in a professional manner. But one of the things that are striking, at least in my mind, is the geopolitical situation that we are in today. There were cable cuts, not just from geological issues, mudslides, and so on in estuaries, but there were also data centers. I think there was a data center that took a hit in the Gulf.
Yep.
So that's the sort of things now that I think we hadn't taken into account up till now. And recently, I believe also that I read, at least in the news, that there were Russian submarines trawling around the west coast of Ireland and the north. Here we go. And looking at and sensing around what kind of infrastructure, cable infrastructure under the ocean. And there was also, I think, a cut up in the Baltic. We don't know who was the culprit, but some blame the Russians. Could be anybody, for that matter. But that's the sort of things now we should take into consideration. So I think that we haven't done so up till now.
Okay.
One short anecdote, maybe it would be interesting. So we are now on the southwestern tip of Europe. If we switch the perspective to the southeast tip of Europe, the heaviest border crossing in the world in terms of cargo is between Bulgaria and Turkey, and the next one in line is between Mexico and California, apparently. So it's a village of less than 200 inhabitants, which has 7 data centers. Data center, of course, not with huge watt power. Some of them are in houses, some of them are open box containers, but it's a critical SPOF. And coming back to the point of Damien, for the next digital corridor that we should be facing, avoiding the Red Sea, avoiding the Mediterranean, or being in a mesh system between the coasts of Turkey and Egypt, but also having a terrestrial path. So it's a very tight bottleneck with maybe 5 or 6 cable systems coming in on both sides. And it's a small village with 7 data centers.
Okay.
May I?
Please.
This is heavily unreliable, right?
Totally.
Heavily unreliable. Some weeks ago, I read an article. I don't know in what magazine, but it was at least I understood the concept. Why and the author raised an hypothesis, which was why don't we, as far as data centers are concerned, and Carlos is here from Equinix, Carlos.
Is he still here?
Yes, he's still there. Take advantage of high connectivity and low latency that some countries have in the terrestrial path. Okay.
I want to have a Whopper cheese, an extra mayonnaise. Sorry, Bill.
and take advantage of that. And instead of building huge data centers that consume a lot of energy, they were claiming to create smaller data centers that would be connected with very low latency infrastructure, hence increasing resilience, and they will be spread in a certain relatively big area of a country instead of in a little tiny village.
I read recently that within 700 miles can be, maybe Nuno can comment on that, within 700 miles can be unified in the same campus, or maybe the guys from DRT and Equinix and Islink, within the same system, compute system, there can be 700 miles of
Well,
distance.
I just thought that was a brilliant idea, but it's not. I don't know if, from the technical point of view, it's feasible or it's just a dream. I don't know. But I think
Nuno,
the idea was great from the resilience point of view. You see.
enlighten us.
Yeah, I'm not going to comment directly because I don't have the data for that. I mean, in terms of consumption, what I can tell is that there will going to be a new generation of pluggables, which will contribute for that. And that will help for terrestrial systems, and long route will decrease the amount of power needed for the telecoms. I mean, there is I saw Alan, one of my colleagues, wrote in the workshop an article on newspaper, and that's really quite interesting. For them.
And also the road to the 1.6 terabit wavelength. I mean, with 1.6 or 800 gig wavelength, the power will be minimized. Hopefully.
But what is for sure, I believe, is that we have to weather the data center, weather the cable landing station, weather the subsea cable. We have to industrialize. We have to speed up. We cannot go at the same speed we were for the last 10 or 20 years. We have to multiply, because that's the only way to have a real resilience. So in the med, we need more cable. So at permitting level, at technical level, at all levels, we have to speed up and to industrialize that, not to make it manually, if I can say. This is the challenge we are facing in order to get a better resilience.
And keep the 5 nines of SLA or not?
Altogether, it will help.
And who's going to give this? The vendor or you?
It's joint effort also.
Well, coming back to the concept of mesh networks, I think we are lucky to have not only subsea, not only traditional terrestrial, but we also have the infrastructure-based networks with high voltage, with railway, with gas lines, which provide an extra layer as their strategic objects. Sorry, a strategic critical, but also of strategic importance to each and every state. So they have an extra layer of security, and part of our we are proud in the fact that our entry into Iberia is powered by high voltage system, which has continuous 5 or 6 years, 4 nines availability.
All right. Damien?
Yeah, just to insist that time is of essence. We need to speed up, and still today, whether Marseille, Barcelona, I mean, in Europe, for permitting, I need 2.5, almost 3 years to get a permit in principle. So it's very long still for the landing of a new cable.
Start early.
Yeah, we start as early as we can. That's what we do. We start
planning.
We start before placing the order to the vendor. But even with that, you de-risk as much as you can. But still, you need so much time. And again, Europe is even in France, Brest and Marseille can manage a different way, let's say, permitting. So this is where I believe we have to make an effort in order to speed up everything.
Okay. Guys, closing round, because I mean, Aurelia, she's the boss in the room. Huh? I do as if I'm the boss here, but she is the boss actually. And she was looking at Eric, well, you have to move. We have another session coming up. So talking about building resilient digital corridors. Quick one, everybody. What's your takeaway? What should we look at for? What's important?
as I said, just it is under progress, but we have to speed up everything.
Okay, Nuno? Buy more Nokia?
Of course. We need to have quickest protection mechanism that can ensure and guarantee quality of service even when there is a catastrophic failure or an event.
Okay, which is very difficult. Risto?
Yeah, from, as you like to say, from helicopter view, I think the three pillars are permitting regime, computing sovereignty, and renewable power, which will ensure that Europe stays at the beating heart of this digital, not corridor, even I would say digital highway. And in our small planet, this is the essence of the traffic between the commuting, the computing, massive compute of the Americas into the high and hyper growth of the Middle East and Africa. So let's keep Europe beating.
Okay, I'll help you with that in Europe because again, many Europes in Europe. Luis?
Well, from an African perspective, don't forget that, as I mentioned, most of the fiber systems run down the coasts. Obviously, we need to mesh inland, crisscross north, south, east, west, and this is yet to happen. And once it's done, then Africa will be more stable from a service perspective.
Okay, thank you. Famous last words, Admiral.
My last words, well, not necessarily famous, but what I would urge all the Europeans that are here in the room and elsewhere to grab this opportunity in our own hands and not let others to just use our areas of responsibility to install their own technology, and we just sit there looking and installing. We should hold this on our hands because this is an opportunity for Europe to regain a little bit, a little tiny bit, its digital sovereignty.
Thank you so much. So Finland, keep it up. That's what he's saying. Thank you so much, and thank you, the audience, for being here. And I want to thank, of course, dearly, and very honored to have these subject matter experts here sitting at my panel. So thank you so much. Another panel is coming right after this one. So thank you so much, but stay tuned.